Before we let you go, any hints around what's coming next for you guys? Anything that you're willing to share?
Yeah, we'll be announcing, really soon, the next few months, kind of what the next project's going to be. But it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. It's one of my sort of bucket list things to work on, and I can't really give you a whole lot more than that.
I think a good follow-up question would have been, were you already working on this other project during the lifespan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Another good question to ask would have been, and if so, was this other project taking resources away from Texas Chainsaw Massacre? You won't hear either one of those questions in this interview.
The Dope Show. The Dope Show. The Dope Show.
Now, I know we've gotten a bit of news about the Halloween game here recently, and we're going to cover that in the next video. We're going to talk about the trailer, and we're going to talk about what Gunn's role is supposedly in that game. But in this interview, we are just going to focus in on his comments about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, I know a lot of you out there are, probably, oh, it's old news, blah, 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 move on. I disagree. I think that there is a wealth of information here about Wes Keltner, and I don't think that it should be ignored or forgotten. So let's get right into it.
And we were selected to be in Game Pass, which we were excited to be in. They took care of us financially, before the game even came out, and that was great for all my investors. We did a similar model, so they were very thrilled to be where they were before the game even came out.
Now, do you see that? Him and his business partners, his investors, they had already received a bunch of money before the game had even launched. If his investors are happy, then Wes is happy. Now, next thing I want to point out is that they got more money up front from selling copies, right? So if he's being truthful and they sold, 1.1 million sold. So you combine that with the Game Pass money they got up front, him and his investors, they already got what they want. Now, the reason I lock in on this is because I think it's probably relevant to how the game was mishandled, right? If you've already made your money back, because if Wes and his business partners have already got what they want, I think it's relevant to how he chose to mishandle the game. Because at that point, he doesn't care, and he's not going to spend the resources to fix the game or make the necessary changes to the game. Now, if you're somebody that watched this whole interview, then something you should notice is that he likes to comment on how much money he and his investors made. He'll talk about the satisfaction of him and his investors, but he doesn't talk about the satisfaction of his customers. And this should go without saying, we are also investors in these games. We invest our money and we invest our time. And in exchange for that, we expect a quality gaming experience. So him and his investors, they're happy. They got what they wanted. So we got Wes's perspective. Him and his investors are happy. They made a bunch of money. Okay. And now he's moved on. So you as a customer should ask yourself, how happy are you with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game? How was your experience? Were you a launch player? Were you in the beta? Did you come along, here recently? How happy are you with your investment in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game? He talks about how happy his investors were with Breach and Clear.
So we launched that game. It was, a successful game. I think we did 4 or 5 times the cost to make the game.
He talks about how happy him and his investors were with Friday the 13th.
Yeah, the investors were pretty happy with it. They were in the double-digit X multiplier.
And he had a whole bunch of other companies coming at him because they wanted him to make them money as well.
Because I said no to probably 10 other films that came to us because the success of Friday was so undeniable that Hollywood kind of came calling and saying, do you want any of our, films?
He talks about how happy him and his investors are with the money they made from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
They took care of us financially, before the game even came out, and that was great for all my investors. We did a similar model.
No mention of the customer. Now, I want to point this out. We're not going to dwell on this next point. In fact, I'm going to give him a pass on this, but I still think it's important.
And we shot up pretty quickly past 3 million people playing the game into 4 million, and continued to grow since then.
Did he say that the population has grown since then? Now, I'm going to do him a solid, and we're going to assume that he misspoke or that he was referencing something else, a different time period. Because I know he wasn't out here trying to say that they still had 5 million players or more since the game was launched. Now, I think it's important because this whole interview is just him trying to paint a completely different picture than the reality. You'll notice many of the things he says in this interview do not match reality. In the Friday the 13th section, he tried to tell you that you could not buy Friday the 13th merchandise for like 5 years or more. He was trying to tell you that you could not buy a t-shirt during that time.
It's the same reason why you can't go buy a t-shirt right now that has the hockey mask on it. Like, everything is stopped.
That didn't happen. Now, or I'm completely misunderstanding something, he just said that the population for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has grown since launch, when everybody knows that the population fell off a cliff, particularly with family players. That was one of the main issues with the game. And as I've stated before, it is my opinion that Rush Week was and is nothing more than an overflow tank for victim players, for victim-only players, just to try to lighten the queue a little bit for the victim players. Let's give them a completely different game type that nobody asked for. That's all it was, right? But if he meant what he said, if he just really got out here and told a lie that big, then that's just right in line with this whole interview. That's just right in line with the whole theme of this interview, of him just getting out here and painting a completely different picture than what the customers experienced.
Continued to grow since then. We've also took place in the PlayStation Plus promotion, which was a similar thing to Game Pass, and that put another large amount of players into the ecosphere of Texas Chainsaw.
Wow, he actually brought up the PlayStation Plus thing. I don't think we need to talk about that at all. I'm really surprised he even brought that up.
And we spent a year putting as much content as we could into the game because we only had the rights to the first movie. And so there's sort of a limitation to how far you can go creatively with that before it also starts to feel like you're doing the same thing.
Yep.
So we wanted to keep everyone in there feeling unique and different and interesting. So we took that out as far as we could, and then we said, okay, creatively, this is the vision we have for this game, and now we're moving on to the next adventure.
Super cool.
This is one of the things that I wanted from this interview. I wanted him to say that on camera. Now, for me, this confirms everything that I think about this guy and his company. So we're going to go a bit deeper in on this one because I think this is just the most important thing in this entire interview. Again, this is supposed to be a PR video for him. For me, this is just a heap of damning admissions to everything. So for those of you out there that are buying this bullshit, and I know you're out there because you guys are still all up in the comments section, you guys are all over the Halloween game subreddit, you're still all over the heavily censored Texas Chainsaw Massacre subreddits. And I'm there too, but I'm just there to lurk and to screenshot your comments because we're going to do that in another video too. We're going to read off and respond to some of these dumbass comments you guys leave. But for those of you out there, if you're still watching this video and you are genuinely buying what he just told you, let's talk about this, okay? So if you take into account everything that we know about Wes Keltner at this point, right? All of his vast experience, all of his accomplishments, his behavior patterns, where his focus is, ask yourself some questions. If Texas Chainsaw Massacre the game was still bringing in profits, do you really think he still pulls the plug? Right? insert whatever number you want. I don't care. Call it 10 million a quarter. Call it 40 million a quarter. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm talking net, not gross. I'm talking pure profit, meat on the bone. Everything's paid for. Payroll's covered. Electric bills paid. He's stocked up on cheap toilet paper for the office. You know, he's ordering cheap pizza for everybody on Friday like he appreciates them or something, right? I'm talking he's out here competing with Dead by Daylight, 24-hour storefront, moving overpriced DLC every night. I'm talking all of it. And after all of that, he can pay himself out mightily. The game is making money. Do you really think he still pulls the plug? Do you really think he still pulls the plug? Because what he just told you is that they hit a wall creatively, right? That's what he's telling you. He's telling you they have developer's block. They're stumped. They're stumped. They can't come up with anything else. That's why he pulled the plug on the game. Because creatively, they're stumped. So even with them being creatively stumped, if this game is making money, do you really think he still pulls the plug? Now, I'm not here to convince you of what I think. I just want you to think. I genuinely want you people to roll this stuff around and ask yourself these questions. Just engage in some critical thinking, if that's not too much. And I know for a lot of people out there these days, that is way too much. So let me just help you out with this a little bit. Let's go at it from another direction, shall we? Let's hold hands. Yes, I've been masturbating today, but that's okay. Hold my hand anyway. Hold it tight. Let's take a trip to La La Land, and let's say that Wes is being truthful and he genuinely believes what he just said. Okay, what did he just admit to there? He just told you how unimaginative he and his team are. They couldn't come up with any more ideas. They're stumped, right? In which case, that would raise the question, if you're so uncreative, if all you can do is copy paste from the source, if all you can do is decorate based on established themes, then why would anybody want to buy another game from you? Why would anybody want to buy anything else from you? You see, but he knows that, which is why he tries to support it with two other stupid statements. See, because if you pay attention to what he's doing, if you pay attention to what he does in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre section, it is the exact same thing he did with the Friday the 13th section. He basically just throws shit at his customers to see what will stick. How much shit can I throw at you before you'll be quiet? What will you accept? Right? Like, it's basically, what does he have to say to you? What answer will you accept to let him off of the hook? That's all it is. What do I have to say? So I'm going to throw as much shit at you as I can, because you'll just accept something without thinking about it. So let's move on to something that's really important. Because he smushed a bunch of different excuses. He packed a whole bunch of different excuses in there. The license is too limited. The license is too limited. Okay. There is so much, like, that is a really loaded statement. That is a very misleading statement coming from Wes Keltner. But let me tell you what's really egregious about that statement. Do you know where he got that stupid statement from? He got that from the player population. He got that from you. I have been reading that dumbass statement since before the game launched. And I know he has too. Don't convince yourself that this guy is not plugged in to the general consensus of their comment section, in the chat box, on their streams, and especially the subreddits. I want to remind you how heavily censored the subreddit was, or is. He got that statement from you all. And let me tell you why. That is how good propaganda works. See, you don't just come in and tell a lie. You don't just come in and just make something up and hope that it spreads. No. You find what's already out there amongst the population, and then you put resources behind it and you cultivate it for your purposes. That's what he just did. You all have been saying that since before the game launched. And so he hijacked it and he put resources behind it, which is him and this interview, and he just repeated it to you, right? He just told you what you want to hear. Do you understand how that works? And I'll tell you what, the added bonus there is that you can also gauge the population for critical thinking skills based on what they fervently believe. So since a lot of you out there have been repeating that same dumbass statement, he just took it and he repeated it. Do you understand how that works? I told you, in a lot of ways, this is a smart guy. I want to remind you, he studied sociology. Furthermore, who the fuck do you think is sitting in front of you? I'm asking a real question. The person that is sitting in front of you telling you that the license is too limited, who the fuck do you think signed the contract? Who do you think paid lawyers to go over the contract? You don't think he knew what was in the fucking agreement prior to him signing it? Do you understand how fucking crazy it is to have the CEO of Gun, the guy that signed the contract and negotiated for it, to now sit here and tell you, oh, the license was too limited? Doesn't that ring any bells off in your head as being strange? I want to remind you.
Because I said no to probably 10 other films that came to us because the success of Friday was so undeniable that Hollywood kind of came calling and saying, do you want any of our, films?
There you go. He had rights holders and studios coming to him. They were coming to him because they wanted him to make them money. That's what investors do. Okay? He was not running around Hollywood sucking dick to try to get a fucking license. They were coming to him. So you can't say that he signed the contract out of desperation. If anything, he had quite a bit of leverage because he had just made prior investors a whole bunch of money. They were coming to him, hey, this is the IP we have. Can you make us money the way you did for Sean S. Cunningham? Can you do that for us? Now, obviously, your answer is going to be yes, I can do that for you. And then you use that as leverage during contract negotiations. So for this guy to sit out here now, the CEO, to sit here now and complain about what was included in the contract is fucking ludicrous. And if you're going to sit there and buy that, congratulations. You are a fucking moron, right? Because here's the thing. Here's just something else I want to point out. The contract is not just financials of who gets paid what. It's a guideline for how the game was to be designed, right? Because if you're not going to have access to this bit of content or that bit of content over here, whatever, without having to pay for it, what? You think he wasn't aware of it? Stop making excuses for this guy. See, he's out here acting like, oh, it was foisted upon him or something. Oh, I had no idea what was in the contract, right? So same thing. He did the same thing in the Friday the 13th section. He sat there and he wants to spin you a story like his hands were tied. There was nothing he could do. So same thing here. He wants to come out here now and tell you, oh, the license was too limited. as if he's not the one that negotiated it. Very dishonest. But that's what I expect from this guy. Let's talk about this stupid fucking statement that a lot of you have been out here repeating, okay? This is nothing more than propaganda. You guys started it. He saw how useful it was, and he just repeated it to you. So let's examine the so-called limitation, shall we? So what has he said so far? What was the narrative that he is trying to spin? He already told you they made a bunch of money up front. He told you that the population has grown since launch, but again, I'm going to give him a pass on that. That's a pretty big lie. So we're going to, assume that he misspoke. He tried to tell, so he's out here trying to tell you that everything was hunky-dory with the game, but they ran into a creative wall because the license was so limited. Is he saying that nothing from the other movies can make it into the game? Is that what he's saying? No, he's not saying that. Let's remember, he tried to get Chop Top. But in his words, he didn't want to get wrung out. And there's nothing wrong with that. If the rights holder was being unreasonable, we did get the Leatherface skin from 2003 from the remake, right? Okay, so the contract doesn't say nothing from within the franchise can make it into the game. No, you just have to pay for it. So let's be very clear about that. The limitation is not the contract, right? So that's not the limitation. The limitation is not that you can't add stuff from the other movies. That's not the limitation. Okay, let's keep going. Is there a restriction on how many original characters he could add into the game? Not that he stated. He says they're out of ideas. They're stumped. Plus, that wouldn't make any sense anyway. If I'm the rights holder, I want you to go nuts adding content. More money for everybody, because I'm going to make residuals. So what is this limitation? We've already established that it's not content from other movies. He just has to pay for it. We've already established that it's not on what original content he can add to the game, because believe you me, he would have used that excuse in a millisecond. So what is this limitation? The limitation is Wes Keltner. The limitation is how much money he is willing to invest to fix the game, to fix and expand the game. And we know that he reached his limit quite some time ago. Do you really believe that if the DLC for this game was flying off the shelves, you really think he's not going to pump out as much original content as he can? Now, obviously, the way this is supposed to work is that, revenue generated by the game is supposed to be reinvested in the game to cover operating costs and obviously to expand the game. And obviously, you always want to try to find new customers, new players. But that ship sailed. He botched the game coming out of the gate, and it never recovered. It turns out people don't like sitting in a lobby, watching people go in and out. It turns out people don't like to be stun locked by poorly designed game mechanics. Stun immunity was only a partial answer. Fix the entire problem. No half measures. Fix the entire problem. Let's take it further. Let's go a little deeper on this, right? Because I want to make sure we completely pull this bullshit apart. So let's plug this in. La La Land time. Let's say that he had access to anything and everything ever published under the banner of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay? He has access to everything, even Bubba's truck from part 3, right? Fuck it. Let's say it's parked right out in front of the house. Let's say he's parked right next to Cook. Let's say you can even drive it. Not a bad idea, right? But yeah, let's say you can get in it and you can drive it out to the battery or the main road, whatever. Okay? There's no limitation. There's 200 different cosmetics for every character in the game. Let's say there's 100 different maps. Let's say stretches in the game. Chop Top, Lucky, everybody. Right? Let's say all of that is in the game, but they don't change anything about the gameplay. Nothing about the gameplay changes. Nothing about the lobbies changes. Nothing about the lack of matchmaking changes. The quality of the servers. Nothing changes about the gameplay. Pre-game or post-game. Nothing changes. But you have all this extra content. Do you think that we really don't wind up in this exact same situation? Like, I'm asking a real question. If the game was super inflated with content, but you don't change anything else, do you really think you don't wind up in this situation anyway? Because if you do, I don't mind telling you, you are quite delusional and shallow. I don't mind telling you at all, because I am that guy. What good does your new Connie cosmetic do you if you're sitting in the lobby? Does that change your perspective on the game? To have access to 100 different cosmetics for your character, but you have to sit in the lobby watching people go in and out? Does that change? Does that fix the lobby for you? No. Cosmetics do not fix the lobby problems. It does not fix the quality of the servers. It does not fix the lack of matchmaking. Even just some soft matchmaking. We couldn't get it. Doesn't change anything, does it? Huh? What if there was 100 different maps? Who cares? You're sitting in the lobby. Doesn't fix that problem, does it? Even if he had managed to get Chop Top and Stretch. Do you really think that all of a sudden the family population is going to grow just because Chop Top's in there, like long term? No, because he still has to deal with the same fucking problems as all the other characters. It's the same game. So it doesn't matter what your cosmetic is. It doesn't matter about the map. It's the gameplay. It's about the wait time to play the game. Because, for the lifespan of this game, I would sit here and read these comments about you guys trying to make it all about, if there had been more cosmetics, then the game would have done better. Oh, if there were more maps, the game would have done better. Obviously, I disagree, right? It's like the old saying goes, hey, you go ahead and you put lipstick on that pig, you dress that pig in whatever you want, okay? You could take that pig with you on Friday night to the bar or whatever it is you're doing. Guess what? It's still a dirty pig, right? It is about the substance. It is about the substance, the gameplay, right? That's like one of the reasons that Dead by Daylight is still around is because they are willing to make incremental changes, sometimes drastic changes, to the gameplay. Yes, they have a lot of content as well, but it's about the gameplay. Because I tell you what, if somebody had proposed a bet with you 5 years ago, let's say 5 years ago, somebody proposed a bet. Let's just say $1,000. Let's say, I bet you $1,000 when the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game comes out, they're going to have a lot of problems getting people to play family. You would have taken that bet. You'd be like, yeah, you're crazy. You're crazy. But if you're somebody that engages in critical thinking, then you would think, okay, then there must be something wrong with the game. There must be a problem with the game design from the family's perspective. That's the only way that would happen, right? How is it that you make a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game and you have a problem getting people to play some of the most iconic, famous characters in all of horror? Because as many people have pointed out, it's not about Bubba. It's not about Leatherface. It's about the family. It's about the situation, right? You can show somebody a screenshot of Hitch in the van and they can tell you what movie it's from. You don't have to show anybody a picture of Leatherface for them to be able to identify Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? You can show somebody a screenshot of Hitch. You can show somebody a screenshot of the cook, of the gas station, of Franklin, of the van, and they can tell you what movie it's from. So you're telling me we got a game based on the original movie and we couldn't get people to consistently play family. Even though you need fewer people to play family. You need fewer people to start the game. What does that tell you? So it is my opinion that they could have had access to every single thing ever published under the banner of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They could have given us 100 maps, 200 different skins per character. And without them making drastic changes to the way the game works, to the gameplay, we still would have wound up here. That is my opinion. Because no matter how popular the character is, had they gotten Chop Top, had they decided to put the sheriff in the remake in there, if they're still bound by the same poor game design, you're still gonna have a shit experience. Like, that's how it works with a product or a service. Overall experiences are made up of small experiences. You understand where I'm going with this? Let's say there's a seafood restaurant, or fuck it, a barbecue place in your city, right? Let's say it's really famous, okay? And you're ready to write a Yelp review or something, or a Google review, whatever. Okay, how do you gauge that? How do you write that? If the food was good, but you didn't like your server, you didn't like the parking situation, you didn't like the music, maybe the cutlery was dirty, you didn't like the drink selection, maybe you didn't like the kind of people that place attracted, whatever. I don't know, maybe it was a bunch of fucking, Confederate hillbillies running around or something. I don't know. Whatever. Are you gonna then leave a positive review? No, you're gonna say, okay, the food was good, but I had a problem with this, I had a problem with that, I had a problem with this. That's gonna be a poor overall review, right? That's how that works. Do you feel safe in that part of town? Did you like the parking? Food? What was the environment like? Overall experiences are the aggregate of a bunch of small experiences. It is the same thing with video games, right? Hey, maybe you're a graphics nut. Okay, the game looks really good, but it's got clunky controls, right? Let's say it's a multiplayer game. Okay, there's a bunch of hackers loose. It's overly toxic. There's no matchmaking system. The lobbies are broken. Do you still care that it looks good? Because you're probably not having fun, right? Okay, I like looking at the game, but everything else sucks. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I think I've harped on this for probably too long. So let's move on to the next part of that statement. We got a bunch of contradictory statements in here, all smashed into one, right? Okay, so he told you that they've reached their creative vision, but he also says that they were out of ideas. Well, which is it? Because he's saying the license is too limited, so we've reached our creative vision. Well, hold on a second. Well, that doesn't add up either. Because if the game has reached what you always wanted it to be, then what else did he just admit to there? Because if that's part of his statement, then he's also saying, well, he knew. He's saying that he knew after Bones, Wyatt, and Graveyard that was it. He knew that was the end. That's all he ever wanted to do with the game. Oh, okay. Well, then how come he didn't tell anybody that, right? Because we would have known about that a year ago, right? Because you're saying you knew when you were going to stop. You're saying you're satisfied with how the game is right now. You're saying you didn't want Chop Top. You're saying you didn't want Stretch. You're saying you didn't want to add any more Leatherface skins. That's what he's saying. And for those of us that own the game on PC, well, we know that's a lie, don't we? Right? And let me just point something else out. So if he's saying that the way the game is now, the way he's leaving the game, they're walking away, that also means that you intentionally are leaving bugs, useless perks, broken game mechanics, clunky controls, bad camera. He's saying all of this was part of his vision. This is how he's walking away and leaving the game. And this is his vision. This was his creative vision. Now, I need some help here because clearly I'm really bad at adding stuff up. Clearly, I'm too feeble-minded to understand this situation. Because if the game has reached its full potential, if this is what was this was always your creative vision, is to leave the game exactly as is right now, then why are you complaining about the license being too limited to continue, right? Because if this was your creative vision from the time you signed the contract, right, you already knew what was in the license. You already knew what it would take for you to reach your full creative vision. Well then, what's the problem? Mission accomplished, right? Shouldn't you have told people at launch what your creative vision was? Oh, that's right. He doesn't like providing roadmaps, does he? I wonder why. Because that would mean at launch, he would have said, hey, this is how much original content we'll be adding to the game. and then I'm going to pull the plug on the game, right? We should have known about Wyatt and Bones and Graveyard at launch. We should have had a number. Hey, this is how many characters you're getting, and that's it. Because based on this license that we obtained, we can't come up with any ideas past that. That seems a whole lot more ethical to me. But reasonable people out there already know that this is all bullshit. Wes Keltner is willing to tell ridiculous lies in front of a camera. And not only that, he's willing to direct his employees to lie and then put their name on that lie, right? Remember, when we got the big news on May 13th, it was his fucking lie with Sid's name on it. So again, I'm going to ask you the same question. Who the fuck do you think this guy really is? Who the fuck do you think is sitting in front of you? Does this seem like an ethical businessman to you? Did hearing his backstory soften you up to him? Or did it educate you? Now, I know for a lot of you out there, oh, well, you know, his story's so good that I'll eat his lies. I'll ignore his lies because his story's so good. He took a stupid statement from you all, used it for propaganda by repeating it to you, told you that the game has reached his ultimate creative vision whilst complaining about a fucking contract that he negotiated. And many of you out there are just fine to swallow it and buy the next thing that he puts his name on. And I will again state, don't listen to me. Don't listen to my opinion. Fuck me. Fuck everything I just said. Go watch the entire interview for yourself and you make up your mind. If you think that I am misrepresenting this man or anything he has said in this interview, I challenge you. I dare you. I dare you. I challenge you. Go watch the entire interview for yourself. I think that we have established that the only limitation here is Wes Keltner and what he is willing to spend money on. That's the limitation. He is not willing to spend money to fix core gameplay problems because he already got your money when you bought the game. Him and his investors got paid by Microsoft before the game launched. He made all of his cash prior to the game launching and from selling millions of copies of the game during the launching period. So from that point, he doesn't have to give a shit about what happens to the game. He already got your money. Same thing with Friday the 13th. Him and his investors, they made their money during the launch period of the game. So when the lawsuit hit, he's already made millions of dollars, most likely. So he jumped ship with his money on to the next adventure. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Him and his investors, they made their money. So instead of a lawsuit, well, you had to deal with low player population, particularly on the family side. You had to deal with people not being able to play the game. Well, he's already made his money, so why would he invest money to fix the game? So he pulls a plug. Now, if you can't see that, if you don't want to accept that, well, that'd be a you problem. Just to close out this topic on Wes Keltner or just gun broadly, about, going forward. I don't like to sit here and criticize without offering solutions. So if you are part of the same ecosphere, whether it's just, horror games broadly or the asymmetrical multiplayer, whatever, I would recommend the following prescriptions based on what group you fall into. Okay. Now I kind of break the customers down into 3 groups. Okay. So we're just gonna call this Alpha group, Bravo group, and Charlie group. Okay. So we'll start with what I think is the smallest group, which is Group Alpha. Not a lot to say here, okay? This group of customers are fucking done with Wes Keltner, with Gun, done. Not buying anything else that I know you or your company is involved in. This group of customers don't care what license Wes Keltner obtains. I mean, we care about that work of art. We want to see the IP respected, but seeing Gun's logo, seeing Wes Keltner involved, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if the game's good. Doesn't matter if it's polished. And I want to compliment this group of people, because these are people that are aware as a consumer. Like, you have to be aware that you are a consumer. You have to be aware of how customers get treated. There should always be consequences, especially for business owners that run around selling people incomplete products and then running off with the profits. But we all know in the United States, people with money don't usually face consequences, do they? Businesses do not face the kinds of consequences that they should. And I get caught dumping toxic waste in the river or an ocean, and all the EPA does is come in and fine me $10,000, but my company makes, $20 billion a year. That's not a consequence, is it? In fact, you just made it legal for me to dump toxic waste in the fucking ocean. Oh, let's pay you 10 grand and I can dump this? There's no consequences. You know who has to apply the consequences? The customer, the consumer. Why do you think, for those of you that kind of keep up with just gaming news in general, have you gotten a look at what Nintendo is up to these days? Have you gotten a look at what Ubisoft is up to these days? And we're going to talk about that stuff in another video. These companies behave this way because we allow it, because we don't hold them accountable. Now, I know a lot of you out there are just kids, and so you're basically excused because you don't know any better. You don't stand for anything. You don't even know who you are yet. So you're excused. Your parents are supposed to be teaching you this stuff. But for you adult gamers out there, these companies behave this way because we don't hold them accountable in the manner that we should. Nobody is looking out for the consumer. Nobody's looking out for the little guy. So that means we got to do it ourselves. And we have to look out for each other. Now, let's talk about the next group, which are people kind of in the middle, right? Group Bravo. Now, here's the thing. Group Bravo are the target audience for Wes Keltner. Okay? In fact, I would say he made this PR video specifically for you people. He knows you're upset. He knows you're disappointed. He knows you feel cheated. He knows you saw the potential in this game. And he knows that you know who he is. Right? But he also knows you're looking for an excuse to overlook his history. He knows, I'll take it further than that. He knows you're looking for an excuse to play dumb. He knows you want to be lied to. He knows you are actively looking for a reason to give him your money one more time and then act outraged if the same thing happens again. Oh, what happened to the game? I don't know what happened. He knows that. I told you. In a lot of ways, that's a smart guy right here. And I want to remind you, he studied sociology. He knows you are looking for an excuse. And he is willing to give you that excuse. A new game. Because you weak-minded ass people, you cannot imagine a reality in where a Halloween game exists and you don't play it, right? Or whatever. Fill in the blank with whatever horror IP you want. Nightmare on Elm Street, The Burning, whatever. He knows you can't imagine existing in a world in where a Nightmare on Elm Street game exists and you don't play it. And that's why I've already said, he owns your weak asses. He fucking owns you. He's already won. Because too many of you out there can't handle the responsibility of holding him responsible. Let's revisit the formula that I previously laid out. Now, I know IllFonic is out here trying to tell us that Gunn's not really involved. They're just going to be in the background. They're just a source of money. They're just going to be a source of marketing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe it's true, but it's probably not. This is the formula. Is your love for Halloween stronger than your distrust of Wes Keltner? The answer is yes. The answer is yes, and you know it. Does your desire to play a Halloween game overshadow your disdain for Gunn? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. And you know it. If I know this formula, then Wes Keltner knows this formula. And who am I? I'm just some dumbass on YouTube. Now, just something else I want to point out real quickly. We don't know what he's referencing. When he says that his next project is near and dear to his heart, he may not be talking about Halloween. They may have their own game coming down the pipe. He may not be talking about Halloween. Remember what this guy cares about. It's making money for him and his investors on the front end. And then after that, he doesn't care about the customers. He's proven that. Ask yourself, when the shit hit the fan with Friday the 13th, who looked out for you? Did anybody look out for the customers? Anybody? Did Gunn look out for the customers? Did IllFonic look out for the customers? Did Sean S. Cunningham look out for us? Who looked out for us when the shit hit the fan with Friday the 13th? Huh? Educate me. You tell me. Who looked out for us? Because it seems to me that all of the people that collected our money, whether it be Gunn, IllFonic, Miller, and Cunningham, it seems to me that everybody collected our money and they looked out for themselves. And we all just found a way to move on and enjoy the game because we were just so happy to have it. And again, I would pose that same question to you again with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Who has looked out for the customers? In what way? Are you a PlayStation Plus holder? Do you feel like Wes Keltner gave you a fair deal? How do you feel about that? Because I know there's a whole bunch of new people out there because I still play. So if you are part of Group Bravo, this is my prescription for you people because you are his target audience. Let's say that he's not referencing Halloween when he talks about their next project. After he announces his next project, let's say it is a multiplayer game. This is what you people need to do. You need a petition to get a financial commitment from Wes Keltner. You need to get it in writing and you need to get it on camera. Then you need to put together a GoFundMe to pay for a lawyer to review his commitment to make sure that him and his company are open for a class action lawsuit should he not follow through. Yeah, I know. Sounds crazy, right? Sounds like a little too much, but that is who you're dealing with. If you cannot refuse to buy this guy's products, then you need to get a commitment from him about his products. Now, if you don't understand what I'm saying, you might go, well, what do you mean by a financial commitment? Okay, I'm talking about Wes Keltner earmarking funds for basic services that any online multiplayer game should have. So, for example, it needs to include a specified time that the dedicated servers will operate. Like whatever, 3 years. You need to get him to say, hey, no matter what's going on with the game and the revenues from the game, whatever, you will have 3 years to play this game on dedicated servers. You will have basic bug fixes and troubleshooting. You will have a roadmap for content and quality of life fixes, like whatever. This is for you guys to decide, right? Because I'm not in this group. Any game directly from Gunn, I don't care what it is. I'm done, right? And that's one of the reasons he doesn't like roadmaps, because that's a commitment. He wants you to commit, but he's not willing to commit himself, right? And all these games that he's a part of, they're just part of his bucket list. A bucket list of items that make him and his business partners money with the shortest horizon, to use his term. That's what he likes. A short horizon to profits. He doesn't care about his customers. He doesn't care about the IP. So you need to get a commitment from him. And if he's not willing to do that, then why should you expect any different from him? right? Because if you're not willing to grow a fucking spine and hold him accountable, then why would he think any different of you all? He's just going to do exactly what he's been doing, and he'll make a bunch of money from it. It's the same thing. When I was talking about Nintendo and Ubisoft or these credit card companies, they behave this way because they're not going to be held accountable. Nintendo is just taking advantage of the political situation in the United States right now, and they filed for a frivolous patent that never should have been granted. Nintendo is behaving in the manner that they're behaving in right now because they have a cult following. Because people that buy their products are not going to say, hey, whoa, wait a minute. You're reserving the right to brick my Switch? What? No. What games is it going to have? That's not accountability. And they know that. Same thing here. Wes knows he has the money and he has the connections to obtain these licenses. He can put together developers. He's good at raising money, produce the game cheap, make money on the front end. Things aren't going well. Hey, I made my money. Pull the plug. Move on to the next adventure. That's his philosophy. That's how he's made his money, and that is how he has operated for all of these years. Now, you guys are one of the biggest groups, right? In fact, I would say that you are his target audience. Bravo group. You're the target audience. You're the marks. You're the prey. You are who he wants to sell things to. Okay, finally, the biggest group there is. Charlie Company. You fucking people are the reasons why companies like Ubisoft or Nintendo, they think they can tell you what to do with your own property. And they have absolutely no fear of tanking their business. Ubisoft thinks they can tell you to uninstall software from your property. You fucking people are the reason why Nintendo reserves the right to brick your Switch 2 if they don't like the way you are using your console. And still, you people line up to buy the damn thing. You fucking people are the reason why somebody like Wes Keltner would even dare to show his face in an interview given his history with Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because of you people. And, the funny thing is that there's always room for people like you in this world. You take up so much space because you'd rather be abused than to be alone. You'd rather eat a fucking cheeseburger with somebody's pubic hair on it rather than to say, hey, I'm not eating that and I'm never coming back to this establishment. You're too afraid of having any original thoughts. That's why you wait around for influencers and celebrities and streamers to approve things for you. They tell you what to like, what to think, right? Because if somebody else doesn't approve it for you, you think it's fucking cringe. That's who you fucking people are. You are the people defending Wes on Reddit or in the comments section, right? You people will be the ones lining up to buy whatever Gun's next direct game is. There's always a forum for sheep to make the most noise. There's always a pat on the head for bootlickers. There's always a bootlicker looking for a pat on the head, right? There's always a position for you people to assume. So for you people, if you're in group Charlie, hey, your spot's open. Make sure you keep it warm. Take your rightful place. Get on your knees and open your mouth. This is Frank Midnight, signing off.